you?
It's too far down. I'm great. It's
You look so
morning.
cute with your glasses and stuff.
Thank you. I need them to see.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Please introduce us to yourself.
Hello, I am Cierra Dae. I'm a mindfulness and meditation coach. I work primarily with people pleasers, but I've been working recently with a variety of different people. So I do most of my work is with meditations and mindfulness, but I do coaching as well throughout the process of people overcoming people pleasing tendencies and really owning their life so that they can live in full alignment and full truth to be fully them without having to feel like they have to do it for someone else or someone else has to tell them how to do it in order to live fully.
How did you get started doing this?
I was a big people pleaser. So there's a lot of different things that went into it. When I've been a nanny for 7 years, so I'm a jack of all trades. I love doing a bunch of different things, but I've worked with kids pretty much my whole life. And I have loved how children interact with the world because they are so new and so fresh, and there's not a lot of baggage on their back. So they are so happy and so alive. And I realize that we lose this as we go throughout our journey because a lot of things come at us and we learn how to cope with it in the way that we're taught. So, from our caregivers, through our parents, through the people who led us, but they were also going in blind and they didn't know how to take care of themselves and nurture themselves. So, in turn, they didn't fully nurture their children. So I do a lot of inner child work within my meditations and my mindfulness practices because our inner child really needs that form of validation and support and love internally from ourselves so that we're not trying to get it externally from relationships and from friendships and things like that, because that's when these toxic relationships come up where the narcissist and the people pleaser are coming together to form this like super traumatic bond. And we go through a lot of shit. So I went through my own story. I had my own experiences with people pleasing, abandoning myself, not listening to my own intuition and my own inner compass, and being a huge people pleaser to the point where I didn't know what my life was because it was somebody else's. It was like a bunch of different people that I was just trying to live out. So coming back to self is, I think, the number one key in order for people to really be able to live this life of happiness and joy that we're all really fucking craving. Sorry, I'm cussing.
No, please
So,
purse. Please
okay,
purse.
good, because that's just
I
my
encourage
natural
cursing.
addiction. That's like our desire. Like we really want this full and loving and honest and transparent life, which is actually why I really, really love your page, because you are so full and so honest about your full range of emotion. And most people hide that, most people put up some type of front to run away from it because emotions can be scary. So yeah, I really wanted to say that I love your page and I love the work that you're doing, the inner work, and it's also snowballing. Like you're also helping other people to see that there are other people that are experiencing the same thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Cierra.
Yeah.
How does step one, day one, stop being a people pleaser?
Notice that you're a people pleaser, owning up to the
Mm.
identity. It's
Mhm.
really, really hard to accept that you're a people pleaser. I have this love and hate relationship with identities because I do think that they can be very important in the healing process to recognize
Yes.
that you have these traits. But usually when people say like, oh, I'm a people pleaser, or oh, I'm a Virgo, or oh, I am a procrastinator or whatever, they put that identity on themselves and then they feel like they can't be or do anything else. They feel like they're doomed to that reality forever. So owning that you are a people pleaser is the first thing, but then recognizing that like you have the possibility to do something different, to be something different. And it takes time because you have to learn like a whole new way of living and interacting with the world. But you really have to have awareness of those people pleasing tendencies in order to overcome them. Because if you're completely blind, you are going to just keep repeating the same patterns. So it takes like a certain level of humility in a way to admit that you're a people pleaser, and owning up to all of the little things that you don't want to look at.
Good, good, good.
Yeah.
You said in on your website that
Mhm.
you were a part of a religion that didn't accept you.
Mm,
What was your religious affiliation and why did you feel that way?
yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that you checked out my website. Yeah, so I grew up in a non-denominational Christian household. So it was not severely religious, but like most Christian households, like there are like the morals and the values that are within the home. So I'm queer. I've always known that I was queer since I was 13. That's like when I first have conscious memory of recognizing that. And there's never been a question about it. So I've always kind of fully known that, but I've also grew up in this household where I believed that it was not accepted to be who I was and that there was something wrong with me and that I was something that I had to change or fix or mend. So growing up in that way, it trained my brain to believe that there was something off. And I've always kind of accepted that I was queer. There's always been like this just knowing. So I've never had this internal battle, but it was because I was such a people pleaser. I would turn to caregivers, I would turn to family and question if they would fully accept me. And so then for a really long time, I hid from them. I was out to the outside world, but I was hidden in the family dynamic, scared of the repercussions of the projected repercussions of what would happen. So I actually recently came out to my family fully on like the whole Facebook shebang, like coming out of the closet this past year. And that's the thing with the people that I work with and the people that I talk to, because people pleasers can have a lot of anxiety on
Yeah.
doing something different because we're scared about the outcome. Like we're scared what's going to happen if we speak up, if we voice our truth. But what happened in my experience when I posted coming out on Facebook, I had absolutely no people. I mean, a lot of people were probably talking shit behind my back, if we're
Yeah.
being real, but they never said anything to me. They never commented on my post. They didn't send me messages telling me I'm going to hell or anything like that. And even if they did, I'm so grounded in myself at this point that it wouldn't have mattered, which is why I was feeling confident enough to post that. But it was a totally different response than I was even expecting. And that's usually the case with people pleasing, is like you are expecting like this huge blow up, like your life is going to explode if you like speak your truth. When in reality, yeah, it'll be uncomfortable and it'll feel weird and it'll feel scary, but there are so many different outcomes, possible outcomes that you don't even know about, and you're not going to know if you don't try something different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you graduated online because you
Mm-hmm.
dropped out of school due to your social anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Describe how your social anxiety impacted your life in the past and how you're still combating that now.
Mm, yeah. So in high school, I actually made a post about this the other day. In high school, I started out in my freshman year. I was a cheerleader. I was like the straight A student. I was like this perfect image of the high schooler. And then my sophomore year, I had like a lot of just a lot of changes. I mean, you go through your hormonal stages as a teenager,
Yeah.
and I didn't relate to a lot of the people that I used to force myself to relate to. And I never really understood the high school dynamic. And so I started changing my outside to match my inside, how I was feeling. So I cut off all my hair, I bleached it, I like got piercings. I went the whole like 180, and it was fun. I loved it. I don't regret any part of like experimenting with my image because it was so fun. Like having rainbow hair, all of that. Like I do not regret it once. But a lot of judgment came from that, and that's where a lot of my like social anxiety comes from. High school's a bitch. People are mean. People are
Yeah.
really mean in high school. And that goes into a whole nother topic. They're just like a reflection of their parents and what they've learned. But um, yeah, it was really hard because especially with social media, that was like on the brinks of when like social media was like really big with like Twitter and all of this. So there was just a lot of shit talking, even if it wasn't directly to me. It was like behind people's backs, and just a lot of gossip and things like that. So a lot of my social anxiety stemmed from that, from my high school experience. So yeah, and after
And after, right?
it can be a
Yeah,
big
right.
after too.
Ain't that the truth?
But it was hard. So I took on this feeling after, even after long after high school, that I had to look or be a certain way in order to be accepted fully and not be talked about. And I so like going into coffee shops and going into even going grocery shopping or whatever, I would be a little bit self-conscious about how I was presenting myself and how I was moving. And even though I was confident in who I was, being a people pleaser, I was still like constantly thinking about every single person and how they were thinking about me, what was going on in their head. And that's fucking exhausting. That is so
Yeah,
tiring. Going into a coffee shop and there's like 20 people in there and you're like thinking about every single person and what they're thinking about you.
yeah,
So even though I was like very confident in who I was, every time I walked into a public space, it was like this like weight dropped over me and I could feel so much in my chest. For me, anxiety sits in my chest. I talk a lot about anxiety on my stories and in my pages because it's very common for people pleasers. But for me, anxiety sits in my chest. And I didn't know it at the time. I was not very body conscious, so I didn't really recognize how anxiety affected my body, and I didn't have any coping mechanisms for it. So I just felt like I was dying all the time. Like I felt like I was having a heart attack.
yeah.
And I was never like present with myself. And sometimes it would spiral. So I would have anxiety randomly, even when I wasn't in social situations, even when I came home and I would be by myself, I would have anxiety. And it was excruciating. Like having anxiety is not fun because you're stuck in your head and then you're stuck in your body. Like it feels like someone is pushing on your chest and you can't get a full breath in. So, something that I like to say is that I experience anxiety. I don't have anxiety
Mm,
because people, like with the identities, as I was talking about earlier, we identify with it and feel like we don't have anything else. Like that is our one character trait and that's who we are and we're sticking to it. And for me, owning that I had experienced anxiety, but I don't have anxiety was so helpful so that every time anxiety would come up, I didn't judge it as much. So now I have a lot of coping mechanisms. I do breathing practices, I do body awareness, meditation, yoga, and I listen to my body and what it needs in that moment because it is so different for everyone. And learning to come back to your intuition to know what your body is needing is super important because people will tell you, like, if you have anxiety, do a breathing practice, but that can make some people's anxiety worse. It's really about what you're needing. For me, sometimes I need to like do yoga and move because if I focus on my breath, I'm like, oh my God, I can't breathe. I don't know why I can't breathe. Like, I can't get a full inhale. So then I
yeah.
need to like kind of take myself out of it and go and do like a yoga practice or even like just swimming or walking or whatever to be able to take myself out of that moment.
Speaking of yoga, you can do a handstand.
A headstand. I'm still working on the handstand. I haven't been like super dedicated on it. It takes a lot of strength, and that is
Yeah.
not there yet. Yeah, the headstand I've got down.
I was looking at it, I was like, yo, this is an American Ninja Warrior right here. Okay. You used to be a smoker.
Mm-hmm.
How did you
Yeah.
quit?
It took a few tries. So I started smoking when I was 15, actually, throughout the whole high school experience.
Oh
That
my
was one of
God.
my coping mechanisms for anxiety. Um, and this is why like I'm a huge advocate for healthy coping mechanisms because we all need coping mechanisms, but and we all use them, but some people usually veer more towards the numbing coping mechanisms instead of the ones that make you turn inwards and reflect a little bit. Um, so I started when I was 15 and it was up until I was about 20. So I'm 23 now. It's been a few years and it took a while. I tried I actually used to have people like they would give me like the nicotine patches,
Hmm.
and I tried like lollipops and whatever else, and none of that worked. I actually didn't quit smoking until I decided I loved my body enough to not treat it that way anymore. Because before I was trying to quit smoking because other people told me to quit smoking, the people pleaser thing, so it didn't stick. And I didn't quit smoking until I started getting into yoga. And I realized I got way more connected to my body and I got more appreciative of how my body moved and how I was connected with myself and that, like, this is my body. Like, nobody else is going to get to experience this. And I want to experience this fully. And I can't even run like down my driveway. And I can't like go on really long walks without getting winded. I'm coughing all the time. Like, it feels like shit. I smell all the time. So after like finally becoming like more aware of what was happening, I decided just cold turkey to quit and it stuck. And I used things like gum in my car anytime there was like a trigger moment, which was getting into my car, going outside, I would throw in a piece of gum. So gum was really big for me. And I highly advocate for people finding, there's three parts of a habit. So there's the trigger, there's a habit, and then there's a reward. So with smoking, or this applies to any habit, but I'm going to use smoking as an example, a trigger could be going outside or going to your car. And then the habit would be, in the previous circumstance, smoking a cigarette. But if you're trying to quit that, you have to replace it with something else. If you're going to do it cold turkey, there's going to be less probability that you're going to stick to the habit, the newly formed habit. So the second part would be to replace it. So it could be a stick of gum, a lollipop. Some people need something for their mouth. Some people need something for their hands. So maybe like a stress ball or something. And then the reward. So the reward for the gum is like you get the sugar hit. The reward is that you have something to do to keep you busy, to help ease anxiety. So that was really important for me in my process, was to recognize the trigger, replace the habit. But I pretty much did it cold turkey. I didn't, for the last time, it was really just me owning that I did not want it anymore and sticking to that decision.
And yeah, I'm definitely gonna rewatch this and take notes.
Yeah. Do you smoke cigarettes?
I don't smoke, but I'm a drinker, so
Okay.
I'm slowly
Yeah.
quitting. But now
Yeah.
that makes sense. I need to replace it with something, because like
Mm,
usually like I use drinking as like a reward, like, oh, I
yeah.
did something good today. I'm gonna reward myself with a glass of wine, and that's
Yeah.
not good every day. That's
Yeah.
not.
I had that experience. I went through like 6 months where I was drinking a lot heavier than I used to. It would be like 2 to 3 glasses every night. And I was like, oh no, I'm not, like, I don't have a problem. I'm just
Yeah,
relaxing. I'm just chilling.
I'm relaxing.
Yeah. Like, this is my downtime. But
Yeah.
I would wake up feeling like shit every morning. I was breaking out really bad because of all the sugar I was getting from the wine. And yeah, it was actually yoga. There's like this whole spiral of like replacements, but yoga for me was my replacement. Anytime I wanted a drink, I would just go and like do yoga, or I would go outside. And I also didn't buy any more alcohol, so I like didn't have the option to even touch it.
What's your favorite ice cream?
Mint chocolate chip, hands down.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Do you like
Okay,
it?
okay.
What's your
um,
favorite ice cream?
I don't eat sweets.
Mm,
Yeah.
interesting.
So like for my past birthday, my mom bought me this big cake and it just
Mhm.
sat there for weeks and I'm like, oh, I feel I'm a terrible daughter. I'm sorry, but I
Oh,
can't.
that's cute.
How does one give a fuck in the right places?
Mm, really taking into account what your needs and desires are. Because when you know what you are wanting out of life and what you're wanting out of your decisions, you're going to start navigating your values and your morals in that way. Um, and I know, I think you took this as a reference to one of my posts that I posted the other day, because we have these desires, and they can come about in the unhealthy way versus the healthy way. And giving a fuck in the right places is doing it in a healthy way. And I, for a really long time, just did the unhealthy path because it is so much easier. It is so much
Yeah.
easier to choose the unhealthy path. And choosing the healthy path is the harder decision. So giving a fuck in the right way is choosing the hard path because it's usually the right path. And it's trusting yourself. Because if you're giving a fuck in the wrong places, you are not fully in trust with yourself. And when you're giving a fuck in the right places, you're trusting what you're wanting and what you're deciding. Even if it doesn't make sense, sometimes we'll make decisions like, well, if we're in a relationship and we're like, this is not it anymore, but we will continue that relationship for 6 months, for a year, even though we knew there was like this gut instinct, even if you couldn't describe it, for a really long time. And then like 6 months, a year later, you're like, oh, that's why I was getting that instinct. Like there were so many red flags and I was ignoring it. That's where giving a fuck in the right places is. Giving a fuck in owning your own red flags, owning your truth, and owning what's coming up for you, and not being distracted by what other people are telling you to do, telling what you shouldn't do, and all of these different things.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write down everything.
Yeah.
And just look at it every morning. um, you're also a beautiful photographer.
Oh, thank you.
You have just this great eye for capturing things, but like it's like there's already a story in the photo. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. That
What do
makes
you,
me really happy to hear.
oh yeah, yeah. What other photographers do you look up to for inspiration?
Uh, so there's this quote that I live my life by, but I also use for my photos. There's beauty in everything, but not everyone sees it. So that's like following the aliveness and the beauty of life. There's literally like there's light coming in my window right now that is like it's blowing me away, and I'm just really grateful for it. But most people would just see it as sunlight and like this is my day, this is how it's starting, and we forget to look at the little moments, and that's why mindfulness is really big in my work. But Joy Prouty, she's on Instagram. I think it's just Joy Prouty, Prouty. She is incredible. She's a mother. I think she has 5 kids now. I followed her since she had 3, and she does that. Like she finds the beauty in all of life's crazy moments, all of life's beautiful moments. And a lot of photographers, that's like their goal, but they do it in a different way, which is why like photography is such a beautiful art. It's like photographers capture their what they see as beauty. And I love the way that she captures life, because she gets like, to me it's like golden light yumminess. Like the end of the day, that's like her entire photography experience.
Um, um, what makes you laugh?
A lot of things make me laugh. I
Because you're always laughing in your post. I'm like, what is she
Yeah,
laughing at?
I love life. I love to laugh. Kids make me laugh all the time. I make myself laugh. I like dancing super silly and stupid. That makes me laugh all the time.
And what are the 11s?
Oh, the 11s. Okay, so I think you probably can't see it now, but when you like squint, you have the 11s in the
Yeah.
middle of your forehead. So it's like a tension point. And to me, the 11s are a signifier of stress and anxiety, but they're also a sign of life. A lot of people want to get rid of, like, they get Botox to get rid of your 11s, or they'll get like Botox here to get rid of the smile lines. And to me, it breaks my heart, because getting rid of your smile lines and getting rid of your 11s is getting rid of proof of life. Like it's trying to clean up some type of mess, when like it is not a mess. It's a signifier of life. And we're so hateful towards wrinkles or cellulite or stretch marks and all of these things, but it's so beautiful because we get to experience this. We have this weird idea in society that we have to be this perfect fucking Barbie image, and I hate it. I hate it because people go through extreme measures to like the point of injecting like chemicals and things into their skin to make them look or feel better. So the 11s are like, for me, I get them because when I'm not wearing my glasses, I have to squint to see. So then I have a big line. And I also have like a resting bitch face, and it like usually ends with with me squinting.
Okay, so where can people like you, follow you, all that fun stuff?
You can follow me on here at Cierra Dae. And then my website is present days, presentdaes.com. Day is my
Oh,
middle
that's
name.
so clever. Your name is like
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. I know. I love it. I've used it like I used to do photography and everything and I like incorporated it. It was called daydream photography. And I would like incorporate it. And then my vintage clothing business is Oopsie Daisy. So yeah, I incorporate it into everything. It's very useful.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, it's really nice.
And then one last thing,
Yeah.
because I feel like we toss that word around a lot, mindfulness, mindfulness, mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is your definition of mindfulness?
Mm. Mindfulness is coming back to the immediate present moment and being intentional with your action. Mindfulness is thrown a lot around, and I feel like it's not fully implemented. Um, so, for example, with people with social anxiety, they a lot of the social anxiety comes from projections of the future or the past, and they're not coming in here and they're checking in with their body and they're checking in with their mind, and being intentional with the way that they move. So mindfulness, or the way that they move and they're working and any actions that they're taking, and they're just responding from the past or the future. So mindfulness is just being really intentional with the way that you're living and really appreciating all of the little moments within the present moment. So then you're not stuck on like, oh man, what am I gonna say next? Or man, I shouldn't have said that because I was stupid. Because it's an exhausting process. So mindfulness is being able to come back in. It's not, unless you're fucking enlightened, which very, very few of us are. Um, and I am definitely not enlightened. Um, unless you are enlightened, you have to go through the process of mindfulness and you have to keep checking back in and checking back in and checking back in. And you're going to fall off the wagon. And it's okay because we're human and we have thoughts, we have emotions, we have feelings. They're going to come, but you just like keep checking in. You're like, okay, how am I feeling right now? Like sometimes in this call, I'll get anxiety. I'm like, oh man, how am I going to answer this? And I'm like, no, I don't need to think about it. I don't need to like project into the future because that's not going to help me. If anything, it's going to make my anxiety worse. I get to come in here and I get to be in this moment with you and having this conversation and this beautiful moment of interaction between two people. That is mindfulness to me. Mindfulness is connection. And that's what we all want. We want real, pure connection. And in order to do that, both people have to be present.
When you said that, like the light just got brighter.
Mm.
Probably reaching for a sign, but
I
that was
know, I believe in so
beautiful.
many signs. My light actually got brighter in my room too. Like the sun came out from behind the cloud. Yeah.
Oh, something just happened. I should go play the lotto or something. I don't know. Thank you
Yeah, we're
so
led.
much, Grace, for waking up this early in the morning.
Of
Well, I
course.
mean, it's not really early, but
Yeah, it's really not.
but thank you for taking the time out to talk with me,
Yeah.
and I really really appreciate this,
Yeah,
and
me too. This was a
I'm gonna
great
I value
conversation.
this conversation so much, and I value you in your
Yeah.
life. Keep doing what
Mm,
you're doing.
thank you. You too. The work that you're doing is so much more impactful than you probably realize. So keep posting, keep being real and truthful and authentic because I fucking love that about you. Like your authenticity is it's beautiful. So
Thank you.
keep showing
Oh,
up.
you're so nice. All right, thank you. All right, you have a good day. Okay.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.